All right. All right. We are recording. This is going to be a great training today. We've got Joey here. He's a great friend of Mike's, and he's going to be doing some awesome training on how to create good offers, especially during uncertain times. So I will let you just take it over from here.
Do my thing.
Yeah.
All right. So, yeah, I mean, I'll just jam on offers a little bit. I didn't actually prepare a specific presentation for you. My idea was to talk about offers for a little bit, and then I have an offer scorecard that you can kind of just put any offer through, really. So I figured I'd talk about it a little bit and then actually pull the scorecard up and kind of just like walk through it. Um, because I created it to just make like offer creation and figuring out if it's a good offer or not easy as possible, right? So it's just like you answer the question, see what like give yourself a grade, and then at the end see where we're at, and then see what we need to improve. So uh, the thing is, like, the first thing to know is there's no such thing as a perfect offer, right? Because offers are very it really just depends on the person, the time in their life, what's happening, all that good stuff. So I like to say it's the perfect offer is the right message to the right person at the right time, which we can't control all of those things, but we can control a few of those things. So I kind of have this concept of creating, I like to call them easy yes offers. So it's just like, what can we do or adjust to make it easier for the person on the other side to say yeah, right? And in simplest terms, when I say offer, I'm simply saying it's basically like the proposition of saying like, hey, here's this thing, and then you being like, yes or no, I want this thing. All right. So it's like someone can think immediately, they can say like, you present the offer to them and they say, oh, okay, like if I give you this, if I give Joey this, I'm getting this in return. Usually like financials are a big part of that, right? So like I give Joey $500, I'm going to get this in return, whether it is financial ROI or not. Sometimes it is. If you're like B2B, it's more than likely a financial return is a big part of it. But if we're in like B2C and like fitness, health, a return on investment is also lots of other things, right? There's it can be a reputation or identity step up. It can be just like a physical thing. Like it can be extra time. So it's not just money, right? It's not like I have to say like it's funny in like health and fitness offers, people they still always try to wrap it back to like money sometimes too. They're like, oh, if you spend this much on my program, then like you're gonna have abs and then you're gonna be better at work and you're gonna be more productive, and then that means you're definitely gonna get a raise. It's like, well, I guess you can try and make that connection, but it's not. It doesn't always need to go back to that, right? So I kind of boil offers down into a one sentence. It's a little long, so you can kind of say it's two sentences, but I call it one. And that is I would like I tell people is like write this down on like an index card and just keep it by your desk. I know like a lot of people have like dedicated workspace. I have like stuff like post-its and stuff on the wall, so it's just things that always remind you of. And this is something that I would do for that. And because you can, instead of going through the actual scorecard that we'll go through, you can just like look at this thing and see if it kind of hits on the marks, right? So the sentence is offer one person a simple, believable, and exciting way out of a specific situation they don't want to be in. And make sure your plan is clearly different than stuff they've tried in the past. So there's a few key parts to this, and I'll point them out now, like specific words. And then we'll also see those words come up on the offer scorecard in the specific categories. So the first is one person, right? We're talking to one person. Another word is simple. The more simple and clear to understand it is, the better. So you notice on the first question of the scorecard that we'll pull up, is basically like, what's your offer in 1 to 3 sentences? And the more clear that is, the better. It's like a sound clip for like a movie, right? It's like someone should be able to see that and immediately they kind of understand like, oh, this is what I'm getting out. So it's simple to understand. It's easy to get. It's like, it just smacks them across the face. It's not just like, I don't know what that means, or like, I don't know what you're talking about. So the next one is believable. The claims that we're making, the promise that we're making, the outcome that we're saying they're going to get, it should be believable, right? So I like this one because I feel like a lot of coaches have the problem of like, they're like, well, I don't want to make big, huge claims. You're like, awesome. You don't have to, because like a lot of those times they're not believable anyway. So like they'll work for kind of scaling, like scaling lower price products, kind of like ebooks and stuff. Like they work for that stuff great. But when there's usually a higher intimacy level, like coaching and stuff like that, coaching, consulting, those bigger claims are, we don't want it to be too far of a jump from someone's like current identity, right? Of like where someone is right now. We can't jump 10 steps. We have to knock over this first little domino before we can get the last one at the end, right? And some people want to make their claim that last domino, but there's so many other things internally, like trust in you, trust in themselves. All that stuff has to be knocked down before they can even get to that point. So believable, that's good. Another one, the other one is exciting. And by exciting, it's usually just it's unique, right? It's just something that's like, oh, well, I haven't tried that before, or like that's a little bit different than everything else I've tried. Because what a lot of people try and do is they try to make offers. They try to point out that what they're presenting is better. And as humans, we don't see better. Everyone like registers better in their minds and in their bodies differently, right? Better will mean a million different things to a million different people. But if we can clearly contrast something, just say like colors, like you don't confuse, as long as you're not colorblind, even then you can still tell the difference between like red and blue, right? Like they're clearly different. So it's just like, oh yeah, I've tried all the red stuff before and that didn't work. You're saying this blue thing works, so this might work this time, right? Because it's just same thing. It smacks them across the face, a clearly different thing, or the kind of the exciting different thing. Specific situation is really important. So when you have specificity with our offer, the more specific, the better. So a lot of times where this shows up in when people are kind of their programs and their coaching is like, they're just very general with what they're promising, right? So very general in terms of like, if we think of health and fitness, people say things like transformation. Same thing. That's another thing that is just completely open to interpretation for everyone. So if we know this one kind of specific type of person that we work with all the time and that we get the best results with, or that we want in our program, we can talk about a specific situation or their specific thing that they want to solve. Instead of just being like very general with what they're saying. So usually I like to kind of explain this as something, it being like concrete and tangible. So something we can like see, feel, hear, taste, touch, essentially, like something we can do with our senses. You can't touch transformation, or you can't see transformation. You know what a transformation in your eyes might look like. So if that's the picture that we're trying to paint, we have to clearly define that in what we're talking about. And then bonus points when that situation is just something they don't want to be in, as opposed to something that could just be nice in the future. So especially now, and if things keep continuing on the trend that they are continuing on, buying behavior might change significantly, but people will still pay to get relief from a situation they don't want to be in, as opposed to a future benefit that might be like nice later down the line, right? The kind of future gain stuff, those are the things that, especially in times like this and moving forward, people are gonna be like, oh, that's, when we kind of get back to normal, that's when I'm going to do that thing. But if you're solving something that they just don't want to be in right now, then they're more willing to make a buying decision now instead of being like, I'm gonna put this off until we're back to X, Y, and Z, or I'm back to working full-time hours, or just whatever it is. And then the last part of that sentence was make sure your plan is clearly different than what they've tried in the past. So the plan is basically like same thing. It's like something that someone can clearly understand, right? They're just like, oh, it's these 3 steps, or oh, it's like, I just do this, this, and this. And clearly different is kind of what we talked about with the specificity. It's just a clear contrast of like, oh yeah, that was what I did before and it didn't work. So this time it's that, and that's how it's going to work. So do we have any questions on that before we kind of dive into some of the other stuff?
This is really great. I'm like taking notes furiously over here. This is awesome. So if anybody has questions, you can drop them in the chat or quickly unmute and ask. This is really good stuff, guys.
Yeah, offers is like, it is, and that's gonna sound like like braggadocious, but it's offers is like this really abstract thing that a lot of people talk about in copywriting and marketing and stuff, but not many people can not many people like know kind of what goes into it, right? And there's other people who teach it differently, but a lot of people say the same shit. They're like, oh, it's their price and your promise and your guarantee. There's like, okay, like, but how do I make sure like any of that stuff or all the other stuff is good? So I spent a lot of time like working with offers and just like basically just like, why is this offer doing so much better than like this thing? Even if it like on the surface might kind of look the same, or on paper might look the same, but how it's actually being bought and all that stuff is different. And it's not always, and it's not necessarily the copy. Like I came from like a copywriting background. So for a while I was just, it's always the words. Like it just has to be the sexier words that's going to get someone to buy. Like I can finagle someone into buying something, but it's not the case at all. Like when you just have a good offer, you can pretty much be just like, hey, here's this thing. And someone was just like, yes, that's what I need. So you don't have to be like a master copywriter when you have like the good elements of a good offer. And it's also, it doesn't only apply to like coaching services and stuff like that. This also applies to service businesses as well. Copywriting, ad management, any of that stuff. When we get into the scorecard, you'll see it's like, in copywriting, basically like it's in everything. People kind of get like boxed into the same way of doing business, right? In copywriting, usually the problem comes up when we only look at what's being presented from like one side, right? So as a copywriter, like I would just look at like, well, no, like this is the way that it works. Like you give me money up front and I give you this, and this is just the way the copywriters work. But if you look at it like from a really good shift in perspective to just look at offers is look at it from like the other person's point of view. Like if you were in their shoes, is that going to be a good offer? Someone's like, oh yeah. As a copywriter, someone's like, well, the retainers, it's $5,000 up front. And I just, I'll write your emails for the month. And if it gets results, awesome. I'm going to try. But if it doesn't, like, then what? And like many business owners are just like, yeah, okay, that's kind of just like the way copywriters work, right? But if you're on their side and someone was just like, listen, that's what we're going to do. You actually pay me half up front and you just pay me on results. And if we don't get the money, like if we don't hit X amount, then you don't owe me that. And like, that's just a way more appealing offer. Because when we look at like the risk involved, the upfront money involved, the specific problem, the specific goal, like all of that stuff is just a completely different offer to the other side. So I see it a lot. I actually just had someone the other day message me. He's a gym owner and he's talking about like kind of like the 30-day challenge, or the 21-day challenge, whatever they are, and just like complaining, just like they're so stupid. They don't work long term. They just get the crappiest people in, and just on and on and on. And it was really interesting to me because I kind of used to be in the same boat. I was like, well, that's not like that. We know as coaches that's not the long-term belief that the person needs to make to like create a sustainable lifestyle in that way. But you're also like, what they want to do is sign someone up for 12 months, right? They want to sign someone up for a year that they never met. You're basically asking someone that you've never met to have babies with you, essentially. Right? You're just like, we haven't even dated yet. Like, I don't even know if I like you. Like, you might smell. And they're just like, you might smell. I might hate what you do. Like, you might snore. You might do all these things that I just hate. That I'm like, no, I won't marry this. And you're just asking me straight up to just be like, hey, let's get married. Instead of being like, hey, maybe we just like go grab some food and then like go from there. Right? So I kind of have these the three offers, and that longer term thing, the ongoing thing, I call it a charge my card back end offer. And in that case, it's just an offer that at that point in the relationship, it's someone's just like, you're far enough along where they trust you so much as far as like the belief, they know you can get the result, all this stuff where they're just like, yeah, just charge my card. Like, you don't even have to ask me anymore. Right? And it's usually on reoccurring. They're just like, yeah, good. We're good. Just keep charging every month. We know. But then the step before that, I call them a pint-sized offer. And it's just a pint-sized promise. So it's not a big gallon promise. It's not a huge promise. It's just like this little promise, which is still significant in this person's eyes. And they're just like, oh, yes, I still want that thing. And that is great. But it's not this huge thing. It's on the path to still getting that, like, that next, that they said, that last domino, or those dominoes far down the road. It's just closer up. So it's just like, yeah, it's just maybe a few dominoes back. And they're just like, oh yeah, that's really believable. I can see that. The risk involvement in both in money investment, in time investment, in energy investment, it's all much lower. I'm more comfortable doing that. That's an easier yes. And then we have a first offer, which is basically just like getting people into our world, which is just a super simple yes. And we just knock the first little domino over. This can be a free thing. It can be like a really cheap trial. It can be whatever, but it's just something, if we're service providers, it could be something like giving someone something to test and then being like, oh, that was cool. Like, that worked. Even if the result was super little, they're like, wow. And that gets them in their world and then opens them up with trust to go to either one of the offers. Some people roll right into the pint-sized offer. Other people are just like, that's all I needed to see. Like, let's go into it long-term.
Yeah, I really like that. And I've seen that too with helping my clients with running ads. Certain offers completely flop. And after looking back at them again, it's like, okay, well, maybe we weren't specific enough, or maybe we weren't clear enough. But you're right. Like, the copy doesn't always matter as much if you don't have a good offer to begin with.
Yep.
Yeah.
So so basically I have like, I call it the offer pie, and it's basically 5 slices of the pie. And at any point in time, we need all 5 slices. It's just like a pie. There's when we bake a pie, it's a full pie. Sometimes we'll have more of something, and other times there's less of something. But all of these pieces are involved, and they're actually like baked right into the scorecard. But I'll just go over them real quick. And the 5 pieces, it's relevant, value-driven, unique and urgent, clear and concrete, and believable. So those are the 5 pieces. And that's what I found, like, what goes into really great offers. So I think I can share my screen here, right? Yeah. Let me see this. Yeah. The document, okay.
Yeah, you're good.
So this is basically the scorecard. And like I said, it's just question by question, easy things to answer for each thing. And like, I'll just go through them real quick, and then we can like hone in on any of the specific ones if you want me to go deeper. They all fit into the stuff we talked about before, but it just like helps you easily pull it out without necessarily like having to know what it is, right? So the first question is, how well do you explain your offer in 1 and 3 sentences? And does your name help to do with this? So this kind of helps with the simplicity, right? It's just like, oh, if I can clearly say this in 1 and 3 sentences, then that's the sort of thing that smacks someone across the face, right? So basically the scorecards, like I said, there's no perfect offer. So the way the grading is scale from like 1 to 10, 10 being the best, 1 being the not so best, not necessarily the worst, right? Because it's going to depend on also like which offer. A charge my card offer has more risk, but if we know that which offer it is and it makes the most sense there, then that's like okay to have it there. So really it's just you ask these questions, you grade them, and then at the end you're like, oh wow, like I did really good here, but this can really use some work. So like I'm gonna tweak this and see what happens. The next one is, how much is your opportunity focused on present pain versus future gain? So we talked about that, especially now, right? Of like solving actual problems now. So just say on a running ads thing, like ad management type of deal, like in the future, it could have been more of like a specific ROI or a specific revenue that this business was chasing. But now it can be something totally different. It could be just like breaking even. It can be lots of different things. We just want to think about like, what's the current thing that they're trying to get out? Like a lot of businesses right now, brick and mortar places, they're just trying to like stay afloat. Even if, like, they're not even open, right? But they're still trying to like pull something in. So again, I'm not doubling your income, right? I'm not doubling your online revenue and getting you leads to flooding through the door. If you're making an offer like that to someone now, it's not even relevant. That doesn't make any sense. So if we can solve a present pain, the better. How willing are people to solve this now, or can it wait? So that's falls in the same category of what we talked about, right? So like a small problem that something can wait, they're going to grade lower, versus a bigger problem that needs solving now is going to be an easier decision maker. Like all of these things, especially like the present pain and this one, how willing are people to solve stuff now? It just, all humans, we don't like to make decisions for the most part if we don't like have to, right? But like the more urgent or the more pressing or like the decision now, the more kind of constraints we can put to help someone make a decision now, the better. That's why like if you study copy and marketing, all people talk about urgency all the time. Limited spots left and this timer down. So like, yeah, people lie and sometimes they make fake urgency, but we can build in like real urgency just by solving a present pain now. That in itself is urgent enough. You don't need any timelines. You need any of that stuff. If it's an urgent pain that someone the situation they don't want to be in, that they're willing to take that action. How often per day do they think about solving this? So the more they think about it, the more pressing and urgent it's going to be. So again, that's baked in urgency as well. So we don't have to add any fake scarcity stuff in there. That in itself, if someone thinks about the problem more often, they're more likely to want to solve it, especially if it's a present pain, not a potential thing that would be nice in the future. How unique is your offer? So, whoops, what happened? Yeah, so for this, your promise, your solution, your deliverables. So I have all those in there because they kind of like, you can have, each of those elements can be unique, right? Like in general, just like the 1 to 3 lines, if that's unique, awesome. But then when we actually look deeper, like what about the deliverables they're actually getting? Is this the same deliverables as everybody else? Or there's something different in there that they're like, they can clearly see like, oh, wow, I never got that before, right? Like just a course of some sort. In most cases, they're used to getting like video trainings and templates and worksheets. And then all of a sudden you're like, well, you're actually like, we have a Trello board of the actual systems and that like the SOPs that like you actually get access to the Trello board and you can like, it's already ready to go. You just have to copy it. You can plug it right into your business. Like that's something that's totally unique and something that they're going to be used to hearing all the time. So we want to think of uniqueness as far as the promise that we're making, the solution that we're providing, and the deliverables that we're using to get there. So basically, like, I like to explain, I like to look at like people on, I don't know which way. I usually do Hell Island on my left, right? So hell is the current place that people are in right now, right? It's just, doesn't have to be like fire breathing bad and dragons hunting them down and killing them. It could just be, it's just the situation that they want to solve, right? There's just like, could be an annoying pebble in their shoe. But again, the bigger the problem, the better. So it's usually more than that. So that's their hell. And then we have their heaven over here. And in most cases, people have tried to get over here. They've tried to get to their heaven, but they haven't been able to get there. Because whatever it is has their vehicle of choice to take them from hell to heaven hasn't worked. All right, there's been some malfunction in their vehicles, ran out of gas, the tires fell off, crashed into a brick wall, whatever it is. So our like product is the vehicle that gets them to that spot. So if our vehicle is the same exact thing that everyone has tried before, then what's going to happen? They're going to think of like, oh yeah, my tires fell off, or I got a flat, or I got pulled over and this happened, and I still never made it to this final destination of the place where they want to. And again, it doesn't have to be like, you know, whatever picture you want to talk about heaven being. It could just be relief from this hell, right? So our vehicle has to be different. It has to be different. The promise, if that can be different, that like any of those, if we have uniqueness in any of those three things, it's going to be better. And then we go, how different is your mechanism compared to what they've tried and doing now? So that's basically like how it works, right? So if we have, usually in like coaching offers, the easiest thing to do when we mechanize something is basically like have a specific proprietary process and name that process. So if we have like, you know, I just finished a sales page for like one of the offers that I'm partnered in, and our mechanism was basically, it was like an Instagram thing. And our mechanism, instead of just being like grow your Instagram or like get more followers or anything like that, our mechanism was the viral growth engine. Like that was the mechanism, right? So there's 3 different steps that goes into the viral growth engine. And the reason that people weren't able to use Instagram and like grow their Instagram and actually make money from it before is because they didn't have all 3 of these elements that went into the viral growth engine. So that is the mechanism in that instance. That's what's different compared to what they tried. How demonstratable or concrete is the ROI? So we talked about this being 4. It's just like, again, something that someone, so like we have 1 here being not clear, 10, someone knows what success looks and feels like, right? So when we say transformation in a weight loss thing, not clear. But if we say like lose 2 dress sizes by X day or in X days, like that's something they can see, right? Fit into your skinny jeans is something that you can see, something you can like touch. So we want our ROI, whatever it is, to be demonstratable. How believable is the result? So we talked about this as far as like the dominoes, right? Are we knocking over a close domino where they also believe that they can knock it over? Or are we making this promise that's so far away from their current reality that they're just like, I can't do that. Like I tried losing weight before and you're telling me I'm going to lose 50 pounds and I can't even like keep this 5 pounds off. So that is just, it's such a far gap. So we have to kind of, we need to meet them where they're at with their beliefs and like what they think they can accomplish themselves. And then how easy and safe is it for them to say yes, i.e. the commitment involved. So we talked about this as far as, is this more like a marriage with kids offer or a first date offer, right? Is this something that's going to cost me, you know, $5,000 up front for you to manage my ads? Or are you saying like, hey, we're going to do this one, like this smaller test that it's going to be, we'll be able to know if it's successful based on like this thing, like this determines success, and it's only like this amount, right? It's a much lower price. And then if like we're in agreement that like, oh yeah, if we hit that, yeah, we'll do the 5K, right? But then they just have the trust that goes into it. They're like, oh yeah, that's sweet, right? Like I've had people earlier on when I was early on in my copy career, when I was like just writing copy, it was just like, hey dude, I have this headline and this lead. So basically like the first like 200 to 500 words or whatever. I think it'll like, I have a good feeling it'll outperform your current copy. If I send it to you, like, would you test it? You don't have to give me any money. But if you test it and, you know, and we win, like, would you be open to working together in the future? And people are always like, yes, absolutely. And some people are just like done that and they don't even run it, but they're just like, yep, let's work together. Just for the simple fact of like someone in their eyes, they can trust you that like you know what you're doing, or at least you're willing to stick by what you're doing. Right. So in this case, again, so like even if it is a higher price, you can have a really good guarantee that helps people not like get off the fence. Right. So just say, for example, this is a really interesting one. It depends on the industry and like the product and stuff, but usually like I like to ask people in coaching programs and stuff, right? It's like, well, it's 90-day or a 60-day coaching program. Like, well, what happens? Or people like, well, I don't make guarantees because everyone doesn't get results. And it's like, okay, that makes, or like get X result, right? Like someone's teaching fitness people how to go from like 0 to 10K months and the program's 90 days. So like they don't feel comfortable promising 10K a month because not everyone hits that. Like, okay, but that's the goal, right? Yes. And what happens when someone hits the like 60 days or 90 days, but they don't actually get that result yet? Maybe they're just at like 2K a month. Like then what happens? Oh, then we keep working with them until what? Oh, then we work with them until they hit 5K a month. Okay, so does someone know that? Oh, no. It's just like, they just think it's 60 days. All right, so do you think it would be more appealing to someone if you said, we'll work with you until you at least make 5K a month? Or is it just like, yeah, it's a 60-day program, and if you don't, like, we can't promise you're gonna make it to 10K a month? Like, what if you just simply told them like, hey, I'll work with you until you hit 5K a month. And they're just like, well, yeah, it's only 4K to get into the program. And you're going to work with me like for sure until I get that. But absolutely. As long as we're still working on it, you're doing what you do, I will show up with you and I will help you through this. They're going to be like, oh, wow. Yeah, you're, it's no longer like me and you on the opposite sides of the table, like arm wrestling to see who's going to win. Like, are you going to, am I going to beat you and you're going to give me your money? Or are you gonna just say no and fight and you know, keep your money? No, it's like you're gonna slide over to my side of the table and you're gonna put your arm around me and be like, listen, I know you tried to do this before and this asshole lied to you and you didn't get the result, but I will work with you until you get this amount. So you'll at least make, you won't even just make your money back. You'll at least make, you know, an extra 2 or 3 grand a month. Like I will work with you until you do that. People are like, oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Like this guy knows what he's talking about. And, or even if they don't even think that, even they're just like, well, maybe he doesn't, but like, he's willing to work with me to prove that he does. So changing our price terms can really vary the safety and believability from the opposite party to say yes to an offer. And then the last one here, how open and willing do people react to your payment? So that's kind of what we talked about there. So like if we said it's just say, for example, service provider, big upfront chunk of money, all right? Because in service provider's eyes, I'm totally worth it. Okay, that's cool. But also like, why don't you make it more appealing to the other side? Like if you really want. Right? If you are good at what you do, if you believe in what you do, and it's not like by no means is it just lower your price, right? You just change the terms. So like, okay, you can have a pay up front that's this much, and then you can have half down, half on delivery, and that payment ends up being more, right? So that's like a premium. You can do premiums when you split payments up. You can do performance-based stuff. You can do all of these things to just make it more appealing, just depending on where that person's at, right? Like where they are in the relationship. Again, if it's like a first date, if it's a first offer that you guys haven't even been on a date yet, you're just texting, then it might make sense to change the terms to be more appealing in that instance. If it's not, if it's, you've worked with this person multiple times, it's like, sweet, yeah, no, this is the way we do the offer, and it's the upfront, and that's fine too. But we just want to bring our offer through here, and then basically we end up here with grades for all of them. And I'll give you the link. I have a landing page, then you can like opt in to get this, and you just make a copy. But basically, yeah, you just bring your offer through here, you grade it, you end up with whatever your score is, and then give yourself notes to improve. So any of the kind of things that we talked about for each of those topics, you can think of like, okay, how do I make this better? You make those tweaks, and then you run it through again, see your score. And you can see the like clearly contrast of, where you're at before and where your new offer is at. So that's pretty much it for that. Do we have any specific questions, or do we anyone have questions on like their offer or anything like that? I'm a pretty open book.
This is really great. I would love to know if you, like, I know with coaching, there's certain kinds of offers that really work well. A lot of people in here are working with local businesses. And so with all the uncertainty that's going on, I'm sure it's even more important to really evaluate your offers. What would you say is the most important thing to focus on in your offer right now if you're trying to help a local business that's struggling?
Ooh, yeah. So do you have an example of like what kind of business? Like, is it a business that's not even open right now?
I know a lot of people in here are working with like restaurants that are doing takeout and delivery, for example. So they've pivoted what they're doing to fix like the problem for their consumers. But then as a marketer, how would you help them really hammer out that offer so that they're successful?
Yeah. And this is like running ads for them and stuff?
Yeah. I know Melanie's working with somebody, so maybe she can chime in. But
yeah. So would it be more to make the offer more appealing to the consumer or to your client, like the restaurant owner?
Yeah, I'm thinking, some restaurant owners may be nervous about going in with advertising right now. Maybe they're questioning, I can't afford it. I like your idea of like you could pay half now and half on deliverable. What kinds of things can marketers do to make running ads for local businesses more appealing or safer, I guess, during this time?
Yeah, that's one of the main ones. Mm-hmm. Is like what basically payment terms and like the kind of the commitment involved in the offer, right? Mm-hmm. If you're going to go to someone who, again, they don't like really there's uncertainty is like the big word that everyone talks about now, right? But there's like, and then it just becomes like a buzzword, but people don't really like actually like what actually why are people uncertain, right? Again, uncertainty is just like this fluffy word, right? But then we look, if we're asking in terms of our client, that like our restaurant owner, we're like, well, what is he worried about right now? Is he worried about like he doesn't know how long he's gonna be able to keep his doors open? Is it worried about like the return on the investment of like either the investment in you or in of like ad spend? So basically, like the first thing that I would do is I would look at what are the actual like present pains for him, and then just see how I can basically counter that with making a better offer. So the payment terms will be a big one. So instead of it being like this big upfront thing, make it like do some sort of split pay, do some sort of performance pay, whatever it is. So this was it was funny. This was like a weird in like the kind of like the copywriting world is pretty weird. Like I started doing performance-based stuff probably like a year and a half ago, or maybe even 2 years ago. And it was so weird because like in that world, people are like I said, it's like, no, this is what I'm worth. And like, this is what it is. And that was always weird to me because I was like, well, what if like I've had something happen and any service provider has where like something didn't work. And like, I feel like shit if I'm just going to take someone's money. So like we were talking about, no matter what, I was going to be like, oh, okay, let's try this. Oh, let's do this. Let's do this. Rather than some people are absolutely cool with just taking people's money and just being like, oh, sorry. I'm not cool with that. So I was like, well, the performance-based stuff and the split pay and basically like shouldering the risk with my client or with my partner, it always made more sense to me because it just like, it just made me feel more comfortable as a human being. And that's just like my priorities and values. So if you're also the same way, just think like, yeah, how can I change these terms to basically fit that bill, right? Like, how can I make it more appealing to that person? So if you know you're hitting like, they're hitting X amount of orders or whatever it is, or they're just worried about like the upfront money, they're just like, I just want to know, they're like, I'm cool with having a retainer. I just want to know, like, I'm at least, like, you're at least going to pay for yourself. Okay, awesome. Like, well, instead of doing our full retainer up front for like the next coming month, why don't we just do like half down, and then as long as we hit this number, which is where my cost covers myself, then from there, then we'll do the second payment. Mm-hmm. Like even to them, again, that's being on the same side of the table with that person, them just being like, totally makes sense. Mm-hmm. The where we still get like resistance for that type of stuff, it's usually because it's not actual, like we just don't have the actual objection, right? There's actually something else going on, but they're just using whatever as like an excuse. Mm-hmm. So if we can just like, we just ask that. I like to look at sales and just sales as just asking better questions, because like then we actually figure out like what's going on and we're able to be like, oh yeah, this makes sense or it doesn't make sense. So I'm not like trying to sell people into something that they don't need. I'm just trying to figure out like, oh, does this make sense for you? Will it work? And then if we have these objections, like, is that the real objection? And if that is, like, all right, like maybe we can do this instead, or does that make sense? Or what about this? And if it doesn't make sense, if there's still like kind of, you basically have like your boundaries of how far you want to go with that type of stuff. Because I've actually had, and people ask me too, they're like, well, what if someone doesn't pay you? I was like, that's happened. It sucks, but it's also like, awesome. I don't do it like big deals like that with people I've never done stuff with before. But if someone's like, if it's not too much money and that tells me that that's a person that I'm not going to work with long term just because they screw me out a little bit of money, like that to me, I'm also like, all right, then you ever see what was it, Bronx Tale is a movie?
Oh, I've
He's
heard of it.
basically like, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's either Bronx Tale or Good. Yeah, it was Bronx Tale. It's basically talking about the kid owing the money, and he's just like, yeah, that was the cost to like get him out of your life. Like to me, and like, yeah, if I can do that, I know like you just cost me, it was only $500 to know that I'm not going to continue a relationship with somebody who like doesn't keep up with their commitments. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, the few things to look at is like, a lot of it's going to be price, right? And people, especially like restaurants, they want to know, are you going to pay for yourself? Are they going to be able to keep the doors open? What they don't want is to like shell out a few grand for you to run their ads, and then they don't make that money back, and then they're in an even deeper hole than they were before. Like that's really it. If it's, again, and some people say like, oh, 100% guarantee on whatever. Yeah, but you can also, that could be fine, but they still have to shell up that money up front. So if you just like showed them that by actually just like splitting the payments, it's the same thing, right? It's like you still have that guarantee in there, but again, it makes it more appealing to them. So I'll just kind of like list out the stuff that they're going through, and maybe, and you can even talk to them too. But, people are like, say no, but like, oh, what's going on? Like, oh, well, we don't know how long we're gonna, or like if we're even gonna be able to keep our doors open. Like, okay, yeah, I get that. So like what, what would kind of what would make it better for you? Like what would make you feel more comfortable? Or, like if it's a long-term client, like, hey, I really like working with you. I'd be totally open to, to moving some of our terms around to make it make more sense for, for what we're doing. Like, I also don't want you to have to shell out money that you're not, that's not coming back to you either, especially now. Basically like the biggest thing is it's like uncertainty. Yeah. But it's like most people don't have like predictability and sustainability in their business anyway. So like, this is where it's real for them, right? It's like, it's real for them. People are going to still need to eat, right? People will still, they still need to eat. So that's kind of a lot of the time it's like their own stuff. But if we're looking at like for that owner, as far as their advertising to get people into the door, think of now it's going to switch to the consumers, the present stuff that the consumers are dealing with. So what are the stuff that they're concerned about? They're concerned about their food being clean. They're concerned about like how the restaurant is keeping up with like the sanitary guidelines, and how maybe what they're doing is different than one of the other restaurants, right? Like, imagine if they just kind of like went really into depth with like, say they were just super clean or did something super unique on that aspect. And then as a business owner, that's something that you advertise with like ads, and someone sees that, they're like, holy shit, you see how clean they are over there? Like, they're doing something that like they're taking so much precautions. Like, I want to get my food from them because that's a present pain for them. Mm-hmm. It's that like, that's a top of mind that someone's thinking about all the time.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. I actually saw, it wasn't an ad, but it was a post from our local brewery, and they partnered with a local restaurant. They're like neighbors, and they're like, hey, we've paired our beer with their, I forget what it was, like wings or whatever. So come and pick up dinner, and we'll coordinate with each other, and we'll bring out like beer and dinner for you. And I was like, that's amazing. I'm totally going to jump on that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think just being creative and also being flexible. Like, I think, that's is really key when you're trying to serve these business owners right now. Mm-hmm. Just if you're trying to run ads, just remember they're people, and they have these needs, and how can you pivot what you're offering to really help them?
Yeah.
I think Rachel made a really good point. Sorry, I'm jumping in on here.
Fine.
She said, hey, there's a brewery and a restaurant, and they offered this, and I was like, yeah, I want to go. I'm working with a restaurant right now, and they have created this wheel with like a wheel of fortune or whatever, that every car that is picking up food right now gets to spin it. And they have good prizes on there, like there's one that's a $15 gift card. One is call a friend. You both get $15 gift cards. One is a free dinner when they open the dining room again. Like, they're really good prizes. And they're like, the restaurant is 45 minutes away from me. And I told my husband, I was like, we should get in the car and go do this week. So I think one of the things about especially restaurants and local businesses that I myself would patronize, I ask myself, like, would I get in the car for that? And, for Rachel's offer that she mentioned, or for this one, like, I would get in the car for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. For those, I mean, a common thing is just pairing, like local business, like you said, it's just pairing similar products and services. So like gyms can they're not going to be open right now, right? But they can do future stuff as well, with gift cards, with massages and nail salons, and think like other kind of things that their customers would be using in the future as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Does anybody else have questions or thoughts? This is a good time, if you did have questions, to either drop them in the chat or unmute and ask Joey before we're wrapping up here. I know I've had to kind of pivot some of my offers this month and kind of work with my clients, and yeah, it's just what you got to do.
Yep.
Joey, you say that you would be dropping a link where we could sign up and get that. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. I think it's like fillyourprograms.com/scorecard, but I'll put it in because I don't even remember. I'm pretty sure that's what it is, but
yeah, no, I will happily jump on that mailing list.
Me too. Yeah, that's awesome. All right, guys. Well, if nobody else has any questions, we'll wrap it up. Thank you so much, Joey, for
Yeah,
your
my
time.
pleasure.
And this is great. This is really informative.
My pleasure. I enjoy it. Yeah, if you guys have any other questions, like feel free to reach out and let me know.
Sounds good. Well, thank you very much.
Awesome. You got it. We'll talk soon.
Sounds good. Have a good rest of the day, everybody.
Take care.
All right. Bye.